humanity stood on the cusp of a new era. After centuries of looking up at the stars, they had finally taken their place among them. The Galactic Empire, a vast conglomerate of alien species, had acknowledged humanity's arrival on the interstellar scene. Earth's diplomats celebrated the recognition, believing it marked the beginning of a prosperous relationship. Unbeknownst to them, the Empire viewed humanity with suspicion, wary of their rapid advancements and unyielding spirit. Captain Elias Carter was the embodiment of humanity's hope. A seasoned explorer and a respected leader, he had commanded the first successful mission beyond the Milky Way. His achievements made him the ideal representative for Earth at the upcoming diplomatic summit on the Empire's capital planet, Aelan Prime. The invitation was heralded as a monumental step towards unity. As Carter's ship approached Aelan Prime, he marveled at the planet's golden cities and the fleets that orbited like silent sentinels. The Empire spared no expense in showcasing its grandeur. Upon landing, Carter was escorted by Imperial officials through opulent halls adorned with artifacts from countless worlds. Yet beneath the splendor lay an undercurrent of intimidation. The summit commenced with grand speeches from the Empire's dignitaries, each extolling the virtues of order and obedience. When it was Carter's turn to speak, he addressed the assembly with humility and optimism. He spoke of cooperation, shared knowledge, and the limitless potential when diverse beings work together. His words were met with polite applause, but he couldn't shake the feeling that he was being scrutinized more than celebrated. That evening, during a lavish banquet, an Imperial official named Lord Varen engaged Carter in conversation. Varen's questions were pointed, probing the extent of humanity's military capabilities and technological advancements. Carter answered diplomatically, emphasizing peaceful exploration and mutual growth. Varen smiled thinly, his eyes betraying a hint of disdain. The following day, as Carter prepared to depart, Imperial guards surrounded his quarters. He was informed that he was under arrest for espionage against the Empire. Stunned, he protested vehemently, demanding to see evidence and to contact Earth. His pleas fell on deaf ears. He was taken to a sterile chamber devoid of any warmth or justice. A trial was held, but it was merely a formality. The charges were read aloud, accusing him of stealing sensitive information and plotting to undermine Imperial authority. Fabricated documents and falsified recordings were presented as irrefutable proof. No witnesses were called in his defense. The verdict was predetermined. News of the trial was broadcast across the galaxy. The Empire portrayed it as a triumph of justice, a warning to any who might challenge their supremacy. On Earth, the footage was received with disbelief and outrage. Governments demanded explanations, and citizens took to the streets in protest. In his cell, Carter remained resolute. He knew he was a pawn in a larger game, a means for the Empire to assert dominance over a burgeoning rival. As guards led him to the execution platform, he held his head high. A vast crowd gathered, a mix of species all under the Empire's dominion. Holographic screens projected his image, ensuring that no corner of the galaxy would miss the spectacle. A high-ranking official stepped forward to address the crowd. Elias Carter of Earth, you have been found guilty of espionage and treason against the Galactic Empire. The sentence is death, to be carried out immediately. Let this serve as a reminder of the fate that awaits all who defy us. Carter was given a chance for final words. He looked directly into the cameras, his gaze unwavering. To all of humanity, and to all who suffer under tyranny, do not lose hope. Humanity will rise. His voice was steady, each word enunciated with conviction. The execution was swift. A beam of light enveloped him, and in an instant, he was gone. The crowd was silent, the weight of the moment palpable. The broadcast ended, leaving a void that was quickly filled with the Empire's propaganda. Back on Earth, grief turned to fury. The loss of Captain Carter was more than the death of a hero. It was an affront to all of humanity. Leaders from every nation convened, setting aside their differences in the face of a common enemy. In a historic session, they formed the Unified Earth Council, a singular governing body dedicated to protecting humanity's interests among the stars. The Council issued a statement to the Empire. The unwarranted execution of Captain Elias Carter is an act of aggression that cannot stand. Humanity seeks justice and will not rest until those responsible are held accountable. The message was clear: humanity would not be intimidated. Across the planet, enlistment centers saw a surge of volunteers. Scientists, engineers, and soldiers all offered their skills to the cause. Factories shifted production to support the impending war effort. In classrooms and workshops, new strategies and technologies were conceived. The spirit of innovation that defined humanity was now focused on a singular goal. Families shared stories of Captain Carter, ensuring his legacy would inspire future generations. Artists painted murals, musicians composed tributes, and writers chronicled his journeys. His final words became a rallying cry: "Humanity will rise." The Empire, observing these developments from afar, dismissed them as the futile efforts of an inferior species. They believed that the show of force had served its purpose and that humanity would soon capitulate. They were unaware of the resilience and determination that had been ignited. In hidden facilities, plans were drafted for a new fleet of ships, sleek, fast, and equipped with cutting-edge technology. Unlike the Empire's massive but cumbersome vessels, these would embody humanity's adaptability and ingenuity. Teams worked around the clock, driven by a mix of vengeance and the desire to protect their home. Meanwhile, whispers of dissent began to spread among other species under the Empire's rule. They had watched the broadcast of Carter's execution and saw parallels in their own suffering. The seeds of rebellion were sown, though not yet ready to take root. As preparations continued, the Unified Earth Council reached out diplomatically to neighboring systems. Though many were hesitant to oppose the Empire openly, there was an undercurrent of sympathy. Small gestures of support began to trickle in: information, resources, and occasionally, sanctuary for operatives. On the anniversary of Carter's death, a massive assembly was held in Earth's capital. Millions gathered, both in person and via holographic networks. A member of the council addressed the crowd. "We stand here not just to mourn, but to affirm our resolve. The Empire sought to silence us by taking one of our brightest stars. Instead, they have illuminated the path we must take. They murdered one of ours. We'll make them pay for all." Thunderous applause erupted, echoing across cities and continents. The message was broadcast to any who would listen, including the Empire. It was a declaration, not just of war, but of unyielding defiance. As the first of the new fleet launched into space, the crews were keenly aware of the challenges ahead. They knew they faced a formidable opponent with vast resources and experience. Yet, they also knew that they carried with them the hopes and dreams of an entire planet. In quiet moments, many would recall stories of Captain Carter, his bravery, his wisdom, and his unwavering belief in humanity's potential. His spirit seemed to guide them, a beacon in the vast expanse of space. The stage was set. Humanity, once a mere footnote in the Empire's chronicles, was now poised to challenge the status quo. The path forward was fraught with danger, but retreat was not an option. As fleets mobilized and strategies were finalized, one truth became evident: the Empire had awakened a force they did not understand. The execution meant to suppress had instead galvanized. The galaxy watched with bated breath, sensing that a monumental shift was on the horizon. Captain Elias Carter's sacrifice was the spark that ignited the flames of rebellion. Humanity would rise not just for themselves, but for all who yearned for freedom. The battle for the galaxy's future had begun. Humanity's declaration of war sent shockwaves across the galaxy. For many species under the Empire's control, it was a moment of intrigue and disbelief. Few had dared to defy the Empire's authority, and those who had were swiftly crushed. The idea that a relatively young species like humanity would stand against the might of the Galactic Empire seemed almost laughable to some. Yet, for others, it was a glimmer of hope in a galaxy long shrouded in oppression. Initially, humanity stood alone. The coalition of unified Earth led the charge, determined to avenge Captain Carter and protect their place in the stars. While they had the drive and determination, they lacked the numbers and resources to challenge the Empire directly. The Empire's fleet was vast, its technology advanced, and its grip on the galaxy seemingly unbreakable. It wasn't enough to declare war, humanity needed allies. Reaching out to other species proved more difficult than expected. Centuries of imperial rule had created a culture of fear and isolation. Many alien civilizations had been conditioned to believe that resistance was futile. Even those who harbored resentment toward the Empire hesitated to act, unwilling to risk their own destruction. Humanity's diplomats worked tirelessly, sending emissaries to distant systems, offering assurances that this fight was not just for Earth but for the freedom of all. Their efforts bore little fruit at first. Humanity's impassioned pleas were often met with skepticism or outright refusal. The Grath, a species known for their mining prowess, dismissed the idea of rebellion, citing the brutal suppression of their last uprising. The VYRN, a once thriving species of traders now reduced to economic servitude, expressed sympathy but declined to take a stance. Humanity began to realize that their words alone would not be enough to inspire action. What humanity lacked in alliances, they made up for in strategy. While the Empire focused its attention on humanity's growing fleet, Earth's intelligence networks worked behind the scenes, sowing the seeds of dissent among the Empire's subjects. They began leaking information about the Empire's atrocities, exposing the corruption and cruelty that many had long suspected but lacked proof of. These revelations began to stir unrest in the outer systems, where the Empire's control was weakest. The turning point came unexpectedly. A Grath miner named Rooker, whose family had been wiped out during the Empire's crackdown decades earlier, intercepted one of humanity's broadcasts. It was a tribute to Captain Carter, highlighting his dedication to exploration and unity. Touched by Carter's story and humanity's defiance, Rooker began spreading the message among his fellow miners. The broadcast resonated deeply, igniting a spark of rebellion among the Grath. Small acts of defiance turned into larger-scale disruptions of the Empire's mining operations. Around the same time, a VYRN merchant named Alskin secretly met with a human envoy. Alskin had grown disillusioned with the Empire's control over his trade routes, which had left his people destitute. The envoy shared humanity's vision of a galaxy free from imperial oppression, emphasizing that the war wasn't just for humanity but for every species suffering under the Empire's rule. Alskin agreed to aid humanity, providing vital intelligence on imperial supply chains and trade hubs. These small victories began to build momentum. The Grath and VYRN were the first to openly support humanity, albeit covertly. Their contributions, though modest at first, were invaluable. The Grath's expertise in mining and resource extraction bolstered humanity's war effort, while the VYRN's intelligence allowed Earth's forces to plan precise strikes against critical imperial assets. Humanity's ability to adapt and integrate these new allies into their strategies showcased the ingenuity that had always defined them. As humanity's defiance grew bolder, whispers of their resilience spread to other corners of the Empire. Species that had long accepted their subjugation began to question the status quo. Small factions within the Empire's vast territories started reaching out to humanity, seeking guidance and support. These groups, though disparate and unorganized, shared a common desire for freedom. The Galactic Empire, ever vigilant, noticed these stirrings of rebellion. They underestimated humanity's capacity to inspire and unite others. In an attempt to quell the rising dissent, the Empire intensified its propaganda campaign, labeling humanity as reckless warmongers who endangered the galaxy's stability. Yet, this only served to draw more attention to humanity's cause. The Empire's efforts to vilify humanity inadvertently amplified their message, reaching individuals who might have otherwise remained ignorant of the growing resistance. With the foundations of an alliance forming, humanity took a bold step. They organized a secret summit on a remote moon in an uncharted system. Representatives from various species, including the Grath and VYRN, attended the gathering. The atmosphere was tense, as centuries of mistrust and isolation hung heavily in the air. Humanity's leaders spoke passionately, emphasizing the shared suffering of all under the Empire's rule and the potential for a brighter future if they stood together. The turning point of the summit came when a recording of Captain Carter's final words was played. His defiant declaration, "Humanity will rise," struck a chord with everyone present. For the first time, they saw humanity not as a rival or a threat but as a kindred spirit in the struggle against oppression. One by one, the representatives pledged their support, marking the birth of the Coalition for Freedom. The Coalition's first act was a joint operation to strike at an Imperial supply depot. It was a calculated risk, as failure could have shattered the fragile alliance. However, the mission succeeded beyond expectations. The Grath's mining technology was repurposed into powerful explosives, while the VYRN provided crucial intelligence that ensured precise execution. Humanity's fleet coordinated the attack, demonstrating the effectiveness of their leadership and adaptability. The operation sent a clear message to the Empire: the seeds of rebellion had taken root. For the first time in centuries, the Empire faced a united front of species determined to challenge its dominion. The success of the raid bolstered morale across the Coalition, proving that their combined efforts could yield tangible results. The Coalition's formation marked a turning point in the war. What had begun as humanity's fight for survival was now a galaxy-wide struggle for liberation. Humanity's ability to inspire and unite others, even in the face of overwhelming odds, became their greatest strength. The stage was set for the next phase of the conflict, as the Coalition prepared to take the fight to the Empire on a scale never before imagined. The war had begun in earnest. Humanity and its newly formed coalition faced an uphill battle against the overwhelming might of the Galactic Empire. Yet, humanity had never been one to fight wars conventionally. Outmatched in numbers and resources, they turned to the one thing that had always defined them: innovation. Earth's scientists, engineers, and tacticians worked around the clock, pushing the boundaries of technology and strategy to give the Coalition a fighting chance. The Empire's fleet was vast, but its size was also its weakness. Slow to adapt and reliant on hierarchical chains of command, the Imperial forces were ill-prepared for the kind of asymmetric warfare humanity excelled at. Instead of engaging the Empire in direct confrontations, humanity's fleet struck where the enemy was weakest. Using data provided by the VYRN and enhanced by Earth's advanced AI systems, the Coalition identified key supply routes, communication hubs, and isolated outposts that could be targeted for maximum disruption. One of humanity's greatest breakthroughs was the development of ghost fleets. These small, agile squadrons utilized modified faster-than-light drives that allowed them to appear behind enemy lines with surgical precision. Each strike was swift and devastating, crippling the Empire's supply chains and forcing their forces to stretch thin. The Imperial commanders, accustomed to overwhelming their enemies through brute force, found themselves unable to predict or counter these elusive attacks. Beyond the battlefield, humanity's adaptability was evident in the way they leveraged every available resource. Civilian industries were repurposed to support the war effort, transforming mining ships into combat vessels and freighters into troop carriers. Earth-born AI played a critical role, analyzing patterns in Imperial movements and coordinating Coalition strikes with precision. These AI systems, far more flexible than the Empire's rigid command structures, gave the Coalition an edge in both strategy and execution. Meanwhile, the other members of the Coalition contributed their unique strengths. The Grath, once bound to the Empire's mines, turned their expertise to crafting powerful weapons and fortifications. Their advanced knowledge of resource extraction allowed the Coalition to build fleets and supply lines at an unprecedented pace. The VYRN, with their vast networks of traders and smugglers, ensured a steady flow of intelligence and supplies. Each species brought something valuable to the table, and humanity's ability to unify these diverse efforts was key to their growing success. Despite these advances, the war was not without its costs. The Empire's retaliation was swift and brutal. Entire human colonies were wiped out in acts of genocidal vengeance, leaving billions dead and displacing countless more. The Coalition's forces were stretched thin, forced to defend vulnerable systems while continuing their offensive operations. Every victory came at a steep price, testing the resolve of those fighting for freedom. Yet, even in the face of such devastating losses, humanity refused to falter. Each new tragedy only strengthened their determination. On Earth, stories of sacrifice and heroism spread like wildfire, inspiring countless individuals to join the war effort. Recruitment centers overflowed with volunteers, from seasoned veterans to young recruits eager to take up the fight. Humanity's resilience became a beacon of hope, not just for their own people, but for every species in the coalition. The pivotal moment of this phase of the war came during the Battle of Laro, a remote system where the Empire had established a key staging ground. The coalition's intelligence revealed that the Empire was using the system as a hub to launch strikes against human and allied worlds. Destroying it would deal a significant blow to the Empire's offensive capabilities, but it was a daunting target, heavily fortified and defended by an elite fleet. The coalition devised an audacious plan. A diversionary force, composed primarily of human ghost fleets, would launch a series of hit-and-run attacks on nearby systems, drawing away a portion of the Imperial defenders. Meanwhile, the main force, led by a combined fleet of human, Grath, and VYRN ships, would strike directly at the staging ground. Timing and coordination were critical. The coalition's forces needed to neutralize the defenses before reinforcements could arrive. The battle was fierce and chaotic. The Empire's ships, though powerful, were unprepared for the sheer unpredictability of the coalition's tactics. Grath-engineered weaponry tore through Imperial armor, while VYRN operatives sabotaged enemy communications, sowing confusion among the ranks. Humanity's ghost fleets struck from unexpected angles, exploiting weaknesses in the Empire's formations. The coalition's fleet sustained heavy losses, but their determination never wavered. In the end, the staging ground was destroyed, and the surviving Imperial forces were forced to retreat. The victory at Laro was more than a strategic win. It was a psychological blow to the Empire, proving that the coalition could stand toe-to-toe with their oppressors. The battle became a rallying cry for the growing resistance, inspiring uprisings in other Imperial territories and drawing new species to the coalition's cause. As the coalition regrouped, humanity's leaders emphasized the importance of their allies. They knew that this war could not be won by humanity alone. The strength of the coalition lay in its diversity, in the way each species brought their unique perspectives and abilities to the fight. This unity, forged in the fires of war, was what made the resistance so formidable. The Empire, however, was far from defeated. While the victory at Laro was a significant milestone, it was clear that the road ahead would be long and perilous. The Empire's resources were vast, and its determination to crush the rebellion only grew stronger. Yet, for humanity and the coalition, the battle was not just about survival. It was about creating a future where no species would live under the shadow of tyranny. With each passing day, the coalition's resolve deepened. They were no longer fighting for revenge or survival alone. They were fighting for freedom, for the right to determine their own destinies. Humanity's innovation and adaptability had set the stage, but it was their unity with their allies that would ultimately determine the outcome of the war. The fight was far from over, but for the first time, the galaxy dared to hope. The Empire's retaliation was as swift as it was brutal. Enraged by the coalition's growing successes, the Emperor declared a state of total war, unleashing the full might of the Imperial war machine. Entire human and allied worlds became targets of indiscriminate violence. Fleets of dreadnoughts darkened the skies of once thriving colonies, raining destruction on defenseless populations. The Empire's message was clear: resistance would be met with annihilation. Humanity and the coalition were unprepared for the scale of the Empire's vengeance. On the front lines, fleets scrambled to intercept Imperial strikes, often arriving too late to prevent catastrophic losses. On the ground, millions were displaced as cities were turned to ash. For every victory the coalition claimed, the Empire exacted a heavy toll in blood and suffering. Entire species began to question whether rebellion was worth the price. Amid the chaos, cracks began to appear within the coalition itself. Some members, particularly the more vulnerable species, expressed doubts about continuing the fight. Accusations flew. Some claimed humanity was reckless, dragging others into a war they couldn't win. Others argued that the coalition's leadership was too disorganized to stand against the Empire's overwhelming power. Tensions ran high, threatening to fracture the fragile alliance. Humanity's leaders worked tirelessly to hold the coalition together. They reminded their allies of the stakes, that this war wasn't just about one species, but about the freedom of all. The Council dispatched envoys to troubled factions, offering support and reassurance. They emphasized that while the Empire's wrath was fearsome, it was also a sign of desperation. The coalition's efforts were working, otherwise, the Empire wouldn't be fighting so ferociously to suppress them. Even as internal struggles threatened to derail the rebellion, humanity pushed forward with their war effort. Earth's scientists unveiled new advancements, including enhanced planetary defenses capable of withstanding Imperial bombardments. Engineers developed modular space stations that could be rapidly deployed to replace destroyed infrastructure. These innovations, combined with the Coalition's growing experience in combat, helped level the playing field, if only slightly. The most pivotal moment of this phase came when the Empire turned its attention to Earth itself. For the Empire, striking at humanity's homeworld was both a tactical and symbolic move. Earth was the heart of the Coalition's resistance, the source of its defiance. Destroying it would shatter humanity's morale and cripple their ability to lead the rebellion. The Coalition's intelligence networks intercepted the Empire's plans just days before the assault. The Emperor had mobilized an armada larger than any humanity had ever faced. Earth's defenses, though formidable, were stretched to their limits after months of war. The Unified Earth Council issued an urgent call for reinforcements, rallying every available ship and soldier to defend their home. The battle for Earth was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Imperial dreadnoughts descended upon the planet, their weapons scorching the atmosphere. The Coalition's fleets, though outnumbered, fought with unparalleled determination. Ghost fleets harassed the Imperial lines, disrupting their formations and buying time for reinforcements to arrive. Grath weaponry and VYRN sabotage once again proved invaluable, but it was humanity's unyielding resolve that carried the day. On the ground, Earth's defenders fought a desperate battle against Imperial landing forces. Civilians joined the fight, repurposing whatever tools they had into makeshift weapons. In the skies, pilots engaged in dogfights against Imperial fighters, knowing they couldn't afford to let a single enemy ship reach the surface uncontested. Every inch of ground and every moment of airspace was contested, with neither side willing to yield. The turning point came when a group of human engineers, working in tandem with Grath miners, activated a prototype planetary shield that had been rushed into production. The shield, though incomplete, provided a brief but critical window of protection, allowing the Coalition to regroup and launch a counteroffensive. With renewed momentum, the Coalition's fleets pushed back the Imperial forces, driving them away from Earth. The cost of victory, however, was staggering. Entire cities were reduced to rubble, and millions of lives were lost. Earth's surface bore the scars of the battle, a grim reminder of the Empire's wrath. Yet, despite the devastation, the people of Earth and the Coalition emerged more determined than ever. They had faced the Empire's full might and survived, proving that the rebellion was far from over. News of the Coalition's victory spread quickly, inspiring uprisings across the galaxy. On Imperial worlds, oppressed populations rose up against their overlords, emboldened by the knowledge that the Empire wasn't invincible. Resistance cells that had once operated in secrecy began openly challenging Imperial authority, further straining the Empire's resources. For the Empire, the battle for Earth marked a turning point in the war. What was meant to be a decisive blow against the Coalition had instead exposed vulnerabilities in their strategies. The Emperor, though enraged by the loss, refused to acknowledge the growing threat of rebellion. Orders were issued for more aggressive campaigns, but within the Empire's ranks, doubt began to fester. Commanders questioned the wisdom of continuing a war that was increasingly costly and unwinnable. Within the Coalition, the victory at Earth strengthened the bonds between its members. Humanity's resilience and ingenuity had once again proven to be a cornerstone of the resistance. The doubts and divisions that had threatened to fracture the alliance began to fade as other species recognized the value of standing together. The war was far from over, but for the first time, the Coalition truly felt like a unified force. As Earth began the long process of rebuilding, humanity's leaders turned their attention to the future. They knew that defending their home wasn't enough. The Empire would continue to be a threat as long as it remained intact. Plans were drafted for the next phase of the war, one that would take the fight directly to the Empire's core. The stakes had never been higher, but neither had the Coalition's determination. The battle for Earth became a symbol of the Coalition's defiance. It was a reminder that even in the face of overwhelming odds, the will to fight for freedom could not be extinguished. For humanity and its allies, it was a turning point, not just in the war, but in the history of the galaxy itself. The Empire's days of unquestioned dominance were numbered, and the Coalition was prepared to do whatever it took to bring them to an end. The Coalition knew that victory over the Empire would require more than just surviving battles. It needed a decisive blow. The Empire's strength lay in its centralized power, controlled by an unyielding hierarchy with the Emperor at its head. Without that central command, the Imperial machine would collapse under its own weight. The Coalition's leadership unanimously agreed that the time had come to strike at the heart of the Empire. Earth's intelligence operatives and VYRN informants had pieced together a bold plan. The Empire's central command systems, housed on Aelan Prime, were the lifeline of its operations. The planet wasn't just the political capital, but the logistical brain of the Empire. Disabling its systems would create chaos, leaving fleets stranded without orders and ground forces without direction. However, the planet was heavily fortified, protected by fleets, planetary shields, and elite Imperial legions. It was a near impossible target. The plan hinged on a small infiltration team, humanity's specialty. A hand-picked group of specialists, drawn from every member of the Coalition, would infiltrate the capital, disable its planetary defenses, and transmit vital data to the Coalition's fleet, which would then launch a coordinated assault. The team would operate behind enemy lines with no expectation of rescue. The mission's success would depend entirely on their ability to adapt and execute under pressure. The infiltration team was assembled with care. Humanity provided engineers and tacticians who specialized in sabotage and infiltration. The Grath contributed demolition experts whose knowledge of structural weaknesses was unparalleled. The VYRN selected spies who had spent decades navigating the Empire's political underbelly, their familiarity with Aelan Prime's layout proving invaluable. Though from different worlds, the team shared a single purpose: to bring the Empire to its knees. Their journey to Aelan Prime was fraught with peril. Using a stolen Imperial transport ship, they navigated the heavily patrolled routes leading to the capital. Every checkpoint and scan was a potential death sentence, but the VYRN operatives' forged credentials and flawless improvisation kept them under the radar. As they entered the planet's atmosphere, the sight of Aelan Prime's golden spires served as a stark reminder of the odds they faced. Once on the surface, the team moved quickly, blending into the crowded metropolis. The Empire's capital was a labyrinth of grandeur and oppression, its streets filled with alien species subjugated under Imperial rule. Despite the planet's opulence, there was an undercurrent of fear, as surveillance drones and Imperial enforcers patrolled every corner. The team navigated this hostile environment with precision, relying on the VYRN's knowledge of hidden passages and restricted areas. Their first objective was the planetary shield generator, a colossal structure buried beneath the Imperial Palace. Disabling the shield was critical to allowing the Coalition's fleet to launch its assault. The team encountered heavy resistance, with Imperial guards defending the facility with relentless determination. Using Grath-engineered explosives and human ingenuity, the team overcame the defenses, but not without cost. Several members fell in the fight, their sacrifices ensuring the mission's progress. With the shield down, the Coalition fleet launched its attack. The skies above Aelan Prime erupted into chaos as ships from every corner of the galaxy converged on the planet. The Empire's defenders, though numerous, were uncoordinated, their communication systems disrupted by the team's earlier sabotage. The Coalition's forces pressed their advantage, targeting key installations and forcing the Imperial fleet into disarray. On the ground, the team advanced toward their final objective, the Imperial Command Center. This facility housed the Empire's central communication systems, the destruction of which would cripple their ability to coordinate across the galaxy. The command center was a fortress, guarded by the Emperor's elite soldiers and protected by layers of security. Every step forward was a battle, with the team relying on their diverse skills to overcome seemingly insurmountable odds. Inside the command center, the final confrontation awaited. The Emperor himself had taken personal command of the defenses, determined to crush the intruders and restore order. His presence was a reminder of the Empire's ruthless control, a symbol of the oppression the coalition had sworn to end. The team fought valiantly, using every resource and tactic at their disposal. The battle was fierce, with casualties mounting on both sides. In a final, desperate push, the remaining members of the team reached the core of the command center. Using a combination of human hacking algorithms and Grath demolition charges, they initiated a chain reaction that would disable the entire system. The Emperor, realizing his defeat, attempted to flee but was confronted by the last surviving members of the team. His death, though brutal, marked the symbolic end of the Empire's grip on the galaxy. As the command center systems collapsed, the Coalition fleet completed its assault, routing the remaining Imperial forces and securing Aelan Prime. The fall of the capital sent shockwaves across the galaxy. Without central command, the Empire's territories descended into chaos, with local governors and commanders vying for control. The once mighty regime fractured, leaving the Coalition to fill the void. The cost of the mission, however, was staggering. Nearly the entire infiltration team had perished, and the Coalition's fleet had suffered heavy losses in the assault. Yet their sacrifices were not in vain. For the first time in centuries, the galaxy tasted freedom. The oppressed species of the Empire rose up, overthrowing their former masters and joining the Coalition in rebuilding their worlds. In the days that followed, the Coalition convened on Aelan Prime to chart the path forward. Humanity, whose resilience and leadership had been instrumental in the war, took on the role of mediator, ensuring that the new order would be built on the principles of equality and cooperation. The Galactic Empire was no more, replaced by a coalition of free worlds united by a shared vision of peace. As the galaxy began to heal, the memory of those who had sacrificed everything for the cause was honored. Monuments were erected, and their stories became part of the cultural fabric of every liberated world. Humanity, once seen as an upstart species, had proven that even in the face of overwhelming odds, determination and unity could prevail. The victory was bittersweet. The war had claimed countless lives, and the scars it left would take generations to heal. Yet, the Coalition's triumph marked the beginning of a new era, one where the galaxy's diverse species could forge their own destinies without fear of oppression. Captain Elias Carter's final words, "Humanity will rise," echoed across the stars, a reminder of the courage and sacrifice that had made this moment possible. The galaxy would never be the same. The Coalition's victory over the Empire was more than just the end of a war, it was the dawn of a new age. And while the challenges ahead would be great, humanity and its allies had proven that together, they could overcome anything.